Well, welcome everyone. Let's get started. Welcome to this unique forum series luncheon. Hopefully you're eating lunch while you're watching us today. Thank you to Huggins Insurance Services in partnership with Bliss Sequoia for being our sponsor today for the forum. It's fantastic to see this virtual room filling up as we speak with so many businesses and community leaders. Gosh, the past couple of months have really tested our nation, our state, and our city like never before. And COVID-19 has really impacted our community greatly. We look forward to the full reopening soon. So many of you businesses have banded together, come together, helped each other. It's just great to see that. I wanted to remind everyone that the Chamber website at salemchamber.org has a really awesome resources page for our businesses. I think there's like 100 references there to all sorts of different things that would be beneficial to you. And then what's really foremost in my mind right now is what just happened in the mail. Everybody should have received their ballot this weekend or today or tomorrow in the mail. It's so important for you to get out there and vote in the next couple of weeks. Today would do it today if you can. To help you with that, the most recent business connector that we sent out to you last Wednesday or Thursday, you should have got that in your email, has not only all of our chamber candidates questionnaires, the questions and answers, as well as the endorsement statements by the chamber. So that would help you with your voting process. So thank you all for attending today. This is awesome. First of all, I'd like to, let's see, Tom, maybe you can let me know who is here. Are many elected officials? I'm not sure if I see that or not. Let's see.
We're going to have to really scan on that, Kathy. So I think as far as our elected officials, our chamber board members, as well as our past presidents, we can recap those when we republish the video.
Oh, that sounds great. Thanks so much. Yeah, so thank you all for being here, being present today. I'd like to introduce our virtual head table. So first is Mike on. Mike is on. Our esteemed keynote speaker, Mike Barrett. Thank you, Mike. Managing Director for the Portland Diamond Project. We're going to hear from him just a little bit. TJ Sullivan, partner and producer at Huggins Insurance Services. He's our sponsor for today's forum. Jordan Truitt, owner of Hoopla, Oregon, Oregon Beverage Service, Cherry Fest Northwest, and the Salem Winter Brew Fest. Welcome, Jordan. Tom Hofford, our CEO of the Chamber, and myself, Kathy Gordon. I'm a partner emeritus with Aldrich CPAs and Advisors, and I'm your 2020-2021, that's hard to say, president of the Salem Area Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. It's an honor to serve you all. Now, would everybody please virtually rise for the presentation of our Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Chamber Past President Bruce Anderson. Welcome, Bruce.
All right, thank you, President Kathy. And Tom just answered my question. So if you please all join me, I'm gonna, yeah, there we go. This is weird, but let's do it anyway. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And now shifting gears to our invocation. If you'd please join me in a moment of prayer and reflection according to your faith. Lord, we come together at this incredible moment in history. While so much has challenged us these past few months, and especially these past few weeks here locally, we have so much to be thankful for. I thank you for family, friends, and for this time to gather as a business community. Thank you for the many people who have come together to support one another during and in the aftermath of the wildfires in the Santiam Canyon. We thank you so much for the special part of the world that we call home. Thank you also for the freedoms we have in this country to gather, to express ourselves freely, to worship as we choose, and for our system of government. And I thank you for each person that is here today. We pray for our leaders and for guidance as we head into the election this coming month. Lord, I pray for peace and goodwill as we reflect on our blessings, knowing that you will sustain us and provide us with all that we need. I pray especially for our chamber leaders, especially President Kathy and Tom Hofford. I just thank you for their vision, service, and leadership to our Salem community. Please bless our time together today. In your name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you so much. All right. This is going to be a real honor for me. At the Salem Chamber, we believe that in helping businesses prosper, so our whole community may thrive. That's what we live by every day. The Spirit of Salem Award is our chance to recognize the leaders and influencers who put Salem first and inspire other individuals to become champions for our city. The recipients of this unique monthly award have brought new meaning to stepping up when most needed. We were each glued to our computer monitors and watching our Facebook and Salem Reporter as fires in the Santiam Canyon began to spread and display our friends and neighbors in the communities to our east. True to form, Salem residents immediately began to galvanize together and provide support for those most in need. First, the Oregon State Fairgrounds was utilized as a base camp for those displaced and needing services and support, including livestock, animals, and pets. With the United Way and Red Cross on scene, there became a necessary pivot to coordinate the vital goods and donations into a manageable space within the city. Jordan Truitt stepped up, offering the Truitt Brother properties on Front Street as the location for truckloads of community donations that were pouring in by the hour. There are so many community leaders to thank for this organized effort, but in addition to Jordan, Lillian and Josh Kay, along with Amar Sadhu, led a large volunteer contingency when this community needed them most. From the public sector, 2 leaders were ever present in making sure their Marion County residents were safe and accounted for. Sheriff Joe Cast and his team of Marion County deputies led evacuation and safety efforts as the fires encompassed homes, businesses, and roadways. Tamara Gotch ran point as Marion County government's key person with all residents affected by displacement and loss of property, an emotional undertaking which would fold a lesser leader. These 6 leaders will naturally point to the countless individuals who assisted in the heroic efforts during September's tragic fires and aftermath. These 6 leaders represent hope for our friends and neighbors in cities like Detroit, Gates, and Mahama. They are examples for all of us who put their professional careers on hold to volunteer where they were called to serve. Now we get to hear a little bit about their effort from those who led the relief effort locally. Join me in recognizing and celebrating our Spirit of Salem recipients, Jordan Truitt, Lillian and Josh Kay, Amar Sadhu, Sheriff Joe Cast, and Tamara Gotch. All right, Jordan, we'd love to have you share some of your insights. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this. Thank you to the Chamber and everybody else who's a part of it and the people in the community. I, first of all, want to thank Josh and Lily Kay for their involvement, their commitment to the community, their assistance and leadership and guidance through all of this. It wasn't just me and Josh and Lily and Amar. And of course, thank you, Amar, for everything you've done as well. It was a team effort. And the biggest thing I noticed coming out of this was the next generation, you know, the younger crowd really stepping up into what needed to be done in Salem. So much of what I've experienced in my life in Salem has started with, okay, which one's your dad? Well, Peter or David Truitt, the Truitt brothers. So how do I fill the shoes of my dad and my late uncle and the name and the path that they laid out for us? And it's kind of been a monumental challenge for me, and I'm sure for others, in kind of in my situation. And just being proactive and trying to get out there and do something to make a difference, whatever it is what I did. And we did it without thinking, without hesitation, without regard for questions that might come up later. And people needed help, they needed action, and action is what we took. So really, this for me, this all kind of started with Josh and Lily. And when the fires hit and I found out about the United Way Donation Center, and when they had activated that in partnership with United Way, I rummaged through the house to find anything I could that would help. And of course, I've got 3 small children. I've got an abundance of kids' clothes and kids' toys. And so we threw them in the car and we went down there just to make our contribution. And what I saw down there, Josh and Lily hustling around, we all saw their posts, but it was just an incredible outpouring of love. And in the matter of less than a week, the place was inundated with materials and support and donations. And, you know, kind of going back to a past life, you know, I used to have trucks, used to have equipment, used to have forklifts, used to have anything and everything that could have been thrown at this operation. And I didn't know what to do other than just to donate clothes. And when I saw that building full of the community support, I knew what I had to do. We had a building on Front Street, 33,000 square feet. I told Josh, it's all yours. If you want it, let's do it. And we went down there on a Sunday morning, took a look at it. 24 hours later, Monday, it was in the process of filling up. It was incredible. We didn't necessarily anticipate the amount of people, amount of stuff that would come in. So we took that into the next gear, which was warehouse management, which was inventory management, distribution, receiving, all those aspects. We had community partners come in and donate forklifts. We had people come in and donate materials, their time, their items. And what we have now is a warehouse that is chock full of equipment and stuff that has been going back out the door to the donations for the people. So it's amazing to be a part of this. I'm so thankful that we had this to contribute. My contribution was the building and logistics support, because that's what I do, it's what I know. And I couldn't have done it without Josh and Lily. So thank you very much to them and to Amar and everybody else who helped out. And thank you to the Chamber.
Thank you, Jordan. Josh and Lillian, you want to have a couple of comments there? Unmute.
Hi, you guys. Thanks for having us. You know, it was just such an exhilarating experience, kind of just being in the midst of it. You know, Josh and I are both in real estate, and so is Jordan. And we didn't feel right, you know, helping people buy or sell real estate at that time. We just felt like this was our calling. And one day Josh and I slip away for dinner to Portland, thinking that there's no smoke there. And just the whole time he was on his phone, just brainstorming ideas of warehouse spaces and what we could do, because he realized that the need with United Way was getting too crowded at their Bleier offices. And so here we are on our way home from Portland. It's 9:30 and we met Elizabeth Schrader at the Zeeb family warehouse, and we're both tired. It's smoky outside, and you know, she just looks at us and she's like, tomorrow's going to be crazy. You know, we both wake up at 7 a.m. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into or the impact that these fires had necessarily made. Yes, we have heard about it. But just the minute we opened doors, the minute we had our Instagram live and, you know, just posting stuff through social media, I mean, it was just an abundant amount of help. The community really came together, which was so special to see in a sense, because in the midst of an election year where you feel so divided and separated from one another, you kind of needed that in a sense, just for your own mental health and just for your own sanity, and thinking, you know, we're a community, we have this, you know, we're together no matter what we face, no matter what we believe. And that was so special to me. No one cared what you looked like, who you were voting for. Everyone was just there together and they were helping, and it wasn't even an area to talk or hang out. It's like every time I looked at somebody, they were so zoned in to doing what they were supposed to be doing, you know, and they were so willing to go and buy stuff or ask for donations. I mean, we had volunteers messaging us through Facebook, willing to make the trip to Central Oregon, to Scotts Mills, to the Beachy Creek fire. I mean, people we didn't even have never met or till this day, I don't even know where they are, willing to do that. And they would just pull up, we'd load their truck and on they would go. And just the community support. And I mean, I do have to brag about Jordan Truitt, because I remember him and his wife coming to the warehouse, and I was on my phone and they were bringing some donations, and he immediately said, like, the warehouse is ready whenever you need it. And, you know, Josh and I talked about it, and we're like, it's time to initiate the Truitt Family Warehouse. And the moment Josh texted him, I mean, it's like, it was go time. And Jordan put in 13 to 16-hour days, and he has 3 little kids and a wife. And so to me, that is just so honorable that he was able to, you know, put these people who were in need of clothing, just the basic essentials, you know, before his family for just a few short weeks. That, to me, that is just so honorable. And Jordan, we appreciate you. We know how hard you worked. You're so in your element when you're in the warehouse. It's the cutest thing ever to see you on a forklift and to do what you do. And same with Amar Sadhu and the Sadhu family. Anytime I needed anything, I mean, I feel like Amar was the first person that was there. I mean, he brought food, gift cards, truckloads, pallet loads of stuff to all the warehouses. And not only that, he was volunteering. And Sheriff Joe Cast, I mean, God bless you. I spoke to your wife a few times during this, and it's gonna make me cry, but you worked so hard, and so did your team. And I just can't thank you enough. Some of those stories I heard were so scary, and I couldn't imagine. And you were putting in so much time, and I just can't thank you enough. So thank you. Sorry. That's my spiel.
Yes, thank you, everybody. This is a huge honor to get this recognition and support, but none of this would have happened without hundreds, literally probably thousands of people coming together. I mean, we were turning volunteers away, and that hurt. And to go from where it started at Blyler to Silverton Road to Front Street, and to see it scale, literally we were told no, never. Every single demand was met, and it was met with enthusiasm and an abundance mentality. And it's, how can we help? How can we get it done? We cut down every single piece of red tape that there was, and we did it with everyone's support. And it was cool at the tail end to see some massive businesses step up. But all along the way, it truly was grassroots. People were emptying out their homes, and it ended with Amazon dropping off hundreds of tents, and bigger companies like Danner Boots and Columbia Sportswear, all making their contributions. And the economic impact, when you consider the cash donations, the physical good donations, and then all of the sweat equity, was well over $1.5 million easily. And to do that in the time we did was incredible. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts, everybody, for filling every single void and meeting every single demand. And thank you for United Way. Thank you to the public officials that helped. And thank you to all of the private donors. We were picking up envelopes full of cash and checks on the sidewalk across from the fairgrounds. They were like, take it, just go, help. It was really a transformative experience. And we'll never forget this last month ever.
Thanks, Josh. That was great. Amar, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, it is a great honor to be alongside Josh K, Lillian K, Jordan Truitt, Tom Hoffer, everybody. It is a great, I'm speechless. The way that Josh, Lily, and Jordan, all 3 of them had worked together, and how they came together and they brought the community together, because as we all, the well-connected people. And it's just, it's great how to see, you know, everybody coming together, even if it's through thick or thin. This is the big time that I think Oregon has ever needed for anybody to come together. And I could speak for my family and our colleagues. We have 2 different parties and in Salem, and these 2 parties do not get together, and it's over 200 plus families. And I'm speaking for our Indian community here in Salem. These 2 parties do not get together, but at this time, both of the parties combined had raised over $56,000 within a matter of 5 hours. And just to see that warms your heart so much, is to see everybody coming together. It doesn't matter what happened in the past, but putting this together and letting everything aside is so great. And then, you know, I could not be there myself as much as I would love to, but I contributed with connecting through our convenience stores, our hotels, and et cetera, and putting together Coke, Pepsi, Columbia, and all these companies to letting them know, hey guys, please come out and join here, come with us. And the amount of families that had lost their members, not just the members, but their houses, is very, it's you know, it's it's something that, you know, you'll never get back, but it's something that everybody came together on. And I can speak for Josh, Lily, and Jordan, is that we did this out of because out of our heart, because we felt this was needed and they needed this help. We did not do this out of, you know, at the end of the day, the recognition. Everything comes, but it happened because of what we actually want to do and help back and give back to the community, because this community is, you know, it's amazing. And, you know, that it's what we went through, and it's a great outcome.
Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you. Sheriff Joe Cast, we'd love to hear from you.
Hello, thank you. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to visit a little bit about what our folks went through. And like everybody said, this hasn't been because of any one group of people or any even large group of people. This was a collaborative effort across the board from the day this started, and even prior to that. For the sheriff's office, there's so many people here at the sheriff's office that just fell into place the night of the fires. It was an amazing, horrific, terrible, terrifying experience for a lot of folks. When our folks got the call up the canyon that the fire had somehow blown up essentially into such a big event, I wound up at the command post in Sublimity, and I was surprised. Frankly, I've been doing this job a long time, 28 years now in law enforcement, 25 years at Marion County. I ran SWAT for 19 years. But to watch the reaction of the local communities helping each other, the fire departments up and down the canyon, but our folks, our deputies, our sworn staff they all saw on the news, heard on the news what was going on. We didn't have to call everybody in. They just came in and immediately went up the canyon. A lot of fire agencies around the state showed up, and I know the sheriff's office had 60 some people working from the command post and up the canyon, trying to get these evacuations, to get everybody, as many people notified as we could. I know that we had at least 33 sworn deputies that were inside the fire lines, knocking on doors, knocking on RVs, making as much noise to get people out of there as possible. And some of the video, if you haven't seen it, it's starting to float around through the media. Some of the video of our dash cams in some of the patrol cars is it's just a lifetime experience that you never want to have to go through. If you get a chance to listen to Commissioner Cameron's conversations and see some of the video from his family, it's some of it's just terrifying to have to come through that event. And to know, for me personally, to know that a lot of my staff were the last ones down. They didn't, excuse me, they didn't want to leave until they knew every citizen was out of the area in front of them. It got to be very emotional down at the command post, worrying about everybody. There's so many citizens that live up there in remote areas, and so many staff that were trying to get into those areas that were getting trapped behind some of the fallen trees and the fires and stuff. It was just an amazing experience, and I hope to never ever experience that again, and for anybody else to have to go through that again. But I go back to what everybody else is talking about, the collaboration between all agencies, all citizens, everywhere. Nobody gave any thought to anything other than making sure everybody was safe. Everybody was trying to take care of each other and get everybody out of there as safe as possible. I really appreciate the opportunity to come here. I appreciate the honor of being mentioned in the groups that are being talked about here today. The reality is it isn't any one of us. It's the people that we're around and that we surround ourselves with. And the Marion County Sheriff's Office, the moment this happened, nearly everybody went on 7-day work week, canceling all vacations to make sure that not just that night, but following up after that night, we still have a lot of work to do. And we're going to have that work to do for months to come, years to come, probably. And we're going to be there with you. It's an honor for us to serve the communities all over Marion County, but right now, that's been kind of our focus, is making sure we get the canyon taken care of. And like I said, it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to be a part of this. So thank you so much for inviting me to this. And I'll be around for a little bit if anybody has any questions later. It's been an amazing and terrifying experience all at the same time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sheriff Cast. Really appreciate that. Tamara, you have some comments as well? Unmute. There you go. We got you.
So the morning of September 8th started from a early text from my son saying he was being evacuated from his home. So I went into immediate mom mode, thought that I was going to be there to help him get large items out of his home. Being a young man, just new in his adult journey. And lo and behold, I get a text from my boss saying that she needed me at the fairgrounds, and just said, I'm on it. I didn't know what I was asking or she was asking of me until I got there. And I now refer to the Oregon State Fairgrounds as Animal House 2020, because we had animals of all kinds at the fairgrounds. When I arrived, we had goats in the fields that they had corralled. We had turtles, we had parrots, we had geckos, we had puppies, we had everything. It was just quite the lot of animals. And so when I woke up one night just dreaming about these animals and what we were doing and how we were going to continue to care for all of them, Animal House 2020 came to mind. This whole experience was humbling, truly exhausting at times, and awe-inspiring. I was so very impressed by all of the volunteers, all of the donated items that came. We did not have a bucket, a hose, food, hay, but it didn't matter, because when we placed the call out to the community, to a person, they said, what do you need? I'll be there, I'll drop it off. And it is with so much gratitude and appreciation that I have for the countless partners that we had, as well as the volunteers that answered the call to serve our fire victims and their animals. I can't ever express how thankful I am for all their help. Those barns and kennels were filled with energy and caring hearts, as well as just grateful, so very, very grateful wildfire victims that were there helping us and singing their praises to the unsung heroes that were helping bring peace and assurance to them who were most affected by the fire. And as I reflect, I've had a little over a month now to reflect on that, and just time and time again, I just feel so immensely blessed to have been a part of this Animal House and to have seen amazing compassion and community that demonstrated hour after hour, day after day, humanity, care, and just wanting to be part of the solution. None of us wanted this, but I think it came in at a time that our community needed it most, because we were able to show that we can come together despite the obstacle and that we were there for one another. And I'm just extremely grateful to have been a part of it.
Thanks, Tamara. Well, and thank you to all 6 of you amazing leaders that we're humbled to honor you today. You did an amazing job working with our folks in the Santiam Canyon. Thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts from the chamber. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tom.
Well, thank you, Kathy. And you are right. Those individuals, Lillian and Josh, Amar, Tamara, Sheriff Kask, and Jordan, this community needed you, and you may not have known your calling was coming. And that is what defines true leadership. It challenges you when we need you the most, and each of you stepped up. And we do recognize there are many other heroes in this in the canyon relief efforts, but you six are absolutely showcase individuals who we all can look up to, and we very much appreciate you, not just as an organization, but the entire Salem community. It's now my honor to introduce today's sponsor of our program. And when we go to set up our yearly programs, when you have something involving baseball, you will instantly pique TJ Sullivan's interest. And so I'm very proud to introduce TJ Sullivan, who is a partner and producer at Huggins Insurance. TJ serves with his partner, Don Bostwick, in engaging a skilled group of individual professionals who are there for your individual and business insurance and benefit needs. As one of the larger insurers of businesses and individuals in the Santiam Canyon, the Huggins team immediately began contacting their policyholders and providing process mapping and next steps, allowing those who were so negatively affected by the fire to focus on safety and their families. While the Huggins and Bliss Sequoia teams are very visible in many of our community projects and initiatives, there's a very important development occurring just behind their building on Park Place on Front Street that is certainly very near and dear to TJ Sullivan's heart. Having been mentored by Mr. Jerry Frank for many years and often sharing bi-weekly conversations over haircuts in downtown Salem, TJ has developed a great leadership mantra that involves many of the thoughts that Jerry Frank imparts on many of us. In a community-based effort headed up by Salem's Downtown Rotary, the Jerry Frank Amphitheater will host nearly 3,000 guests in a premier performance location located right in our downtown core. Many Huggins Bliss Sequoia agents volunteer across the Salem community, and you can see many of them, whether it's involvement in the nonprofits, in Little League sports, but getting people engaged in their community in safe atmosphere. They're never selling their business, they're selling their personal brand. The Salem Chamber was fortunate to have TJ serve as our president of our organization for over a year, and taking over when Bruce Anderson made a career change. We appreciate that from TJ. Serving as President Gordon will attest, is a big commitment, and it's one that is done with a servant's heart. TJ also leads our efforts as one of the co-chairs of our Public Policy Committee and serves in leadership position on the Salem Chamber PACs. I mentioned that baseball is a key part of TJ's life. He is both a coach, a mentor to young people, and oftentimes if you drive downtown, you can see on his building, giant color big screen, those individuals and young people who have excelled within the sport, and oftentimes highlighting them is an absolute peak of their individual careers. They take pictures of the sign showing that they were front and center for Salem's community. Please help me welcome TJ Sullivan to hear more about Huggins Insurance Services in partnership with Bliss Sequoia, and TJ will introduce today's keynote speaker.
Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to put the boys' picture up there. Anybody who hits a home run in Little League gets their picture up as a Huggins home run hero. And it's a lot of fun to be able to do that. I know, like many of you, we've been impressed with the effort, but I want you to know when we've had our adjusters come into the area, a lot of times our insurance companies are flying in adjusters who have been working in other areas that have been hit by natural disasters. So these folks are used to the process. And once again, time after time, from different adjusters from different companies who've been around the country, the refrain has been the same thing. We can't believe how much this community has rallied around the people who have been hurt by the fires. And they've said that it's unlike anything they've seen in other communities in terms of the overwhelming support from all different segments of the community. So hats off to everybody who was involved in that, and just know that that's part of what makes this place special. at Huggins and Bliss, we do try to be active in our community, and there's a lot of good things that are happening, and we want to continue to see that this community thrives and is a great place to live, work, and play. And like many of you, we're also following along with baseball and what's happening right now, and it's certainly exciting. We know that week in and week out, you can't help but root for the Sprague Olies. And I want you to know that yesterday we had a game. We were down 3-0 to the bad guys, and then in the 7th inning, Jack Muse stepped to the plate with the bases loaded and 1 out, and put the second pitch he saw over the center field fence for a grand slam. Grant Struthers came in and shut it down, and we ended up winning 4-3. So it was certainly an exciting outcome yesterday at Blanchette Park here in Salem. And baseball is an exciting a part of the Americana, and it's something that we are missing here. And it's a great privilege for me to be able to introduce Mike Barrett, who is a Northwest native, and he's been a fixture here in Oregon and Southwest Washington sports and media landscape. For many of us, outside of Bill Schonely, Mike Barrett is the voice of the Blazers. And that's saying something, because I didn't think anybody was ever going to be able to come close to Bill Schonely, but Mike is right there in terms of the sound of his voice makes you think of great Blazer moments, and it's hard to watch a Blazer game and not hear his voice. He's grew up in Albany, attended Oregon State University, and following his graduation moved to Portland and started his broadcasting career. He briefly worked in Hillsborough and then was offered the job as the sports director at KXL. And from there, he went on to doing part of the radio broadcast team for the Oregon Ducks. And then, of course, he moved to the Blazers in '99, and he had to work with Mike Rice. And I'm sure there's a lot of great stories that could probably fill up an entire forum lunch about working with Mike Rice. But he has been pregame, postgame, play-by-play, you name it, he did it. And we were all entertained, and he did a great job in that role. And we certainly miss him in that. He is a trusted local spokesperson for strong regional brands like Bimart, Wilsonville Toyota, Bellagio's Pizza, Traeger Grills, and Academy Mortgage. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mike Barrett, the Managing Director of the Portland Diamond Project.
Thanks, TJ. I appreciate that very much. I'm a little bit humbled to come on and talk after so many great stories following the fires. And we actually live in Wilsonville, my family, and of course I'm from Albany. And so, we were affected certainly by smoke, but I was hearing those stories, and it was reminding me, we live kind of across from some fields, and we had seen one day, I think it was on the Saturday, all these RVs all of a sudden were out in this field. And I was talking to my wife and I said, well, let's go over there and, see who's over there and see what they need. And so we brought them dinner that night. It was a bunch of people from Malino and then some from the Canyon, and they had brought their horses. And so when you guys were talking about people stepping up during times like this, it was remarkable to see. And so 2 nights later, COVID be damned, we had a party at our house for about 22 people who were displaced and had a big barbecue. And so I think for the people who gave during that time, it does as much for you giving as it does for those receiving. So anyway, we'll talk baseball and we'll talk Blazers if you want a little bit now, as you heard TJ say, but I just wanted first to say how much I appreciated hearing the stories down there, certainly for all the people affected, and me being an Albany native, I love speaking to groups who are from the Valley, because that's where I'm from. And oftentimes up here, in the Portland area, it gets a little provincial in terms of their thinking, and I'm always there to remind people when we talk about population areas and places we want to impact with our project. I always throw in the Valley, certainly, and Salem, Albany, Eugene, the like, everybody down there. So I'm always that representative at the table, because that place holds such a close place in my heart. So I'll start and kind of back it up. I can tend to get long-winded, as you can imagine, but there's a lot to talk about, because it's been, we've been going on this Portland Diamond Project for boy 3+ years. And and first I'll just say, and because of the odd time that we're in, the question I get asked when I'm out in public a lot is, are you guys alive? I mean, are you going? And did COVID take you out? And so the first thing I'll say is things are going great. I was just downtown this morning. We had a staff meeting, and then I came back out to Wilsonville to jump on this call. But in many ways, during the time before I back up and get to the beginning, I will say that in terms of on a national scale, on what this could mean for the project, this interesting time, it actually could help in many ways. I know that some of the things we've talked about in terms of a baseball expansion that we have talked about, and what we talked about when it started, it may speed it up a little bit. At least that's our hope. We have great connectivity to Major League Baseball, and we've taken a couple of trips back to New York and met with the commissioner, and we have even talked to a lot of different teams, different management groups, different, and not necessarily about opportunities for relocation, even though that has come up, but we have tried to really stay in our lane and just get advice and just keep our ears open. But going back to the beginning, we started this. Craig Cheek, my partner, who is the founder of Portland Diamond Project. Craig ran Nike North America, he ran Nike China. And after my time with the Blazers ended, I had a few months of wondering what was next, and didn't want to move, didn't want to leave home. So I kind of ruled out staying in the NBA. Had a couple of offers to do that, and then some offers on the West Coast with college sports and Pac-12 network and whatnot. And I had so much connectivity, and TJ mentioned some of the brands I worked with. I've always worked with Bi-Mart and continue to do their commercials, and those things are so near and dear to my heart. I just didn't feel like I could leave. I didn't feel like I wanted to go. And then my family's based here. We didn't want to go. My wife's from Phoenix, and we had talked about going, and we both said, nah, we're staying. So, but anyway, when we started this, Craig, who is again the founder, as you see Pat Casey in the picture there, Oregon State legendary head coach, who's been a great friend to the project. We got into this with the idea, and Craig had approached me and just said, hey, I've got a goal. I'm going to try to make this happen. And Craig is from a guy who ran Nike and who signed some of the biggest names for Nike, and he dreams big, and he's extremely optimistic. And I remember the first time we sat down and had lunch, and he talked about this and wanted me to come be a part of the project. I tend to be probably a little bit more on the skeptical side because I spent a lot of time in the media, and but I said, I'm in. Let's go. And so we started kind of comparing notes, and we both have networks of people, and we all know how that works. You kind of tap into networks, you kind of look for advice, and we both did that. And so we brought together just some initial investors to get us off the ground, just to kind of take the temperature on could we get enough interest locally to run a project like this. And so we started grabbing some people, and I knew a few guys who were around the major leagues and both players and in management positions. And I think we had planned really on keeping this quiet a little longer. This is going back a few years, but when Russell Wilson and Sierra decided to jump in, and Craig had signed Russell to Nike, so he had a relationship with Russell, and we drove up there and talked to him, and Russell's a baseball guy. So he said, absolutely, I'm in. And I want to announce that I'm in. So we said, okay, well, that changes our time frame a little bit, but it put us on the map, I think, nationally. We had a press conference downtown when Russell came to town. Baseballism, a great partner of ours, where we officed for a long time. We had a press event there. We had a press event there for Oregon State after they won another national championship. And the turnout of people and kind of the grassroots effort around this thing, we started to say, wow, this is maybe even bigger than we thought, especially initially. And when I got home that night, and I was watching ESPN, probably watching a baseball game, and to see along the ticker on the bottom that Russell and Sierra had joined the Portland Diamond Project, I mean, I went, okay, we kind of have arrived now, which has been great. And they continue to be massive supporters. And Russell is got a huge heart for our project. And I think what we said all along in the initial stage was, we know a window is open right now for expansion, for perhaps relocation. And a lot of people started talking about who those teams could be, struggling teams and struggling markets. So then we had to go, okay, we got to land a bunch of planes at the same time. So we have to get connectivity to Major League Baseball. So we did. We've got lots of good friends at Major League Baseball and MLB Network, and Harold Reynolds, who of course grew up in Corvallis, and Dale Murphy has been a great friend of the project, and Dale, of course, from Portland, and longtime Atlanta Braves. So we've been down to Atlanta to see their operation because the Braves did what we kind of would like to do. We've spent a lot of time in Kansas City because that's where our architects are, Populous. We're also working with TVA Architects in Portland on ballpark design. Some of those renderings leaked, and so they're probably available. We posted some of them after that on our website, portlanddiamondproject.com. So if you want to take a look at any of those. Some of the biggest questions we get asked, along with, well, there's a lot of questions we get asked, but one of the biggest ones is where. And it's funny how when you start off a project like this, you kind of ring fence some properties and some areas where you would like to have your ballpark, where you'd like to think a development would fit. And since the beginning, we've been about so much more than just a ballpark. We have been about a development that could both do things in the community, live, work, play. The Atlanta Braves, as I mentioned, did this in Atlanta. They moved outside the city, ironically, and developed a property called the Battery, which is 65 acres of mixed use. It's restaurants, theaters, hotels, office space, ballpark, all controlled and owned by the team, which is unique. It all came up at the same time. So we've had some great meetings with a lot of developers. I mentioned our architects and everybody. It kind of initially gave us affirmation that we're heading down the right road here, because everybody has asked, how can we get involved? How can we press into this? So going along, it's all been going great. It never goes as quickly as you want, but we still feel like we're on a great track. COVID and all this stuff kind of bumped us a little bit, but it didn't knock us necessarily off track. It just changed the way we communicate. So one of the ways we kind of raised awareness for the project was doing community events. We would go to a Hillsborough Hops game, a Volcanoes game, Beavers, Ducks, M's in Eugene, and kind of then talk to the community. And we sell merchandise, which benefits nonprofits. Friends of Baseball is a huge partner of ours. So everything we've tried to do with kind of that in mind. And again, it's changed the way we have communicated, like it has with a lot of people. I mean, look, we're on a Zoom call now, and a lot of our things we used to do in the public are now Zoom calls, and digitally connecting with people. But we have loved that, and we have loved to continue on with pushing ahead. And I've said this before, so I don't want to sound like I'm crying wolf here, but it feels like to me that we are getting close to really some, I don't know, maybe not necessarily announcements, but bigger steps in the right direction. And as I mentioned a minute ago, when we talked about properties, and I get asked about that all the time, where is this going to be? We've continued to try to keep an open mind, because as you start down on different places, the ones that leaked out initially in the media, and that's been a challenge, is trying to keep a lot of this confidential. And it's not it's not because we haven't wanted people to know about this. And that's a question I get a lot, is why don't we know more? And a lot of it has been just because the people we're working with, be it community leaders or politicians or investors, they request that. And even our major investors, which would be more of an ownership type capacity, we have not come out with. We're kind of at their whim in terms of when they would like to be revealed. So I don't like being able to not answer some questions. I do know a lot of people in the media from my time with the Blazers, so a lot of these people are friends, and they'll say, "Yeah, just tell me. You can tell me." And I've had to be in the uncomfortable position many times of saying, "I can't. I don't want to do anything to knock us off the track." So, but back to the property. We had some come out. One of the initial ones was right there in the Rose Quarter at the Portland Public Schools site. That was one that was released, kind of went out public. And then what tends to happen when something comes out, you not only raise support for that spot, but you also raise opposition. And so that was fine. But we have gone through, I can probably say this, but we've gone through, and some of them are still there for us. We certainly have ones that are favorites, But we also have lots of alternative areas, and we've tried to always have that, both it's smart business wise to do that and not necessarily for massive leverage plays, but we've tried to do that just in case. We haven't just dive bombed on one site, but we have some under control. And we're kind of waiting on that next thing. As I mentioned, the thing that makes this project so challenging is you're trying to do so many things at the same time. And you need to be getting the okay here to get the to go ahead and go with this. And but gosh, we're getting close on that. And when I look back at the way Washington, D.C. did this, back when Portland was also vying for the Montreal Expos, this is back in 02, 03, it took them a long time. And I think that we started off, and if there was one mistake maybe we made early on, or where we were maybe too optimistic, because we thought, okay, 2 or 3 years, we're going to have announcements. Well, we've been 3.5, and people remind us of that. And I do say we feel like we've made tremendous progress, but people still on social media and whatnot light me up all the time and say, hey, when's this happening? So I just can say that we're continuing with great optimism. I think there will be a time, maybe a fork in the road at some point where you go, okay, we're getting to the point where this has got to happen, or else, but we're not there yet. We're still feeling like, and we're getting, we told Major League Baseball in one of our first meetings, this was in September of, must have been 17. We were back there and said that, if there's any point along the way here, and because they had come out, and Commissioner Manfred said in a press conference, it was in Seattle, ironically, said that, he was asked about Portland, and he said, he said, we need a West Coast team. We need a West Coast city. We need another late start for TV money and everything else. And said they are certainly on our list. So we knew that from the very beginning. And then you hear different cities pop up. Nashville is one that's gotten a lot of news lately, and Montreal early on, although you haven't heard them talked about as much in recent days. You've heard about Vegas, although I'm not sure they're really have an organized effort at this point. So, and I know I'm kind of bouncing all around. I tend to do that, but when you're talking about expansion and baseball, again, COVID and lost revenue has had a way here of kind of speeding up the talk of possible expansion. And so if you're going to expand, you can't do it with just one, you got to do it with two. So Nashville happily is cruising along, and they for a while they were about 18 months behind us, but they're catching up rapidly. And we're fans of, we want that, because we think if it's going to be expansion, we need a city in the East. And they so far have kind of been that city, and we compare notes with the different cities that are doing this. And like I said, in the initial parts of the project, it was Montreal. Now it's more Nashville. We don't know where it's going to end up, and we don't know what the exact timelines are. But we did tell baseball, you let us know if we get to a time when we are wasting our time and money. And they continue to say, no, keep going. We love what you're doing. Before we have any kind of announcement, before we have any kind of a press conference, before we have any kind of major release, we go to Major League Baseball and say, hey, we're going to say this. Are we putting you under pressure if we do this? And so the connectivity there has been terrific. And, and then we continue to, we did this petition signing where, and we pushed that hard. We wanted to show that there was a grassroots effort and there would be support for this. And all the way through this, I have continued to say, of all the concerns I have, and there are a lot of them, the one I don't have is fan support. I've never, and maybe that was because I was around the Beavs, the Ducks, the Blazers for so many years. This area, this region turns out for its sports, and that has never, and with our weather and everything else, and it's a great baseball area. Craig grew up in Vancouver, which is great baseball country, and then the Portland area and the Valley. And maybe this is maybe a little bit different than the Blazers in some ways, only because of the time of year and because of what baseball is. This is a regional, and I've continued to remind them of this. And always when I'm in meetings with the city or people in Portland, I always say, this is a statewide, this is a region-wide effort, because I think you imagine late summer, our summer weather, first of all, is phenomenal. And as many days I used to walk out of the Rose Quarter when I was with the Blazers in the summer doing a talk show, and look around and think, man, if there was only a Major League Baseball game to go to. So, but we have continued to have fans up and down the freeway, up and down I-5, Southwest Washington, who are following this effort and who want to be a part of it. So I've tried to give you a background without trying to be boring here in terms of just the stuff you already know. A lot of times when I talk to groups, they want some breaking news. I can just tell you that even every day there's something that happens that gives us puts wind in our sails, and this week could be another one of those weeks that we feel good about, and it's probably not anything that'll get out publicly, but no, it's been tremendous. The thought of what we could do in terms of housing, creating a district, and then in terms of the sponsorship, the corporate partnership, the nonprofit arms that come off of a professional team, and Major League Baseball is very good at that. So we've tried to think of everything like that, and tried to align everything. But like I said, it's when you're trying to do so many things at the same time, and you're depending on so many things happening at the same time to continue forward, it is complex, but we continue to be so excited with where we're at. Am I still going okay on time? I know we wanted to leave time for questions. Somebody cut me off if I'm just starting to continue to go too far on this, Tom. Am I still okay?
You're doing great, Mike. And we have about 6 or 7 minutes before we'd want to transition into Q&A. Although I will say, I'm happy to say we have a number of questions that have come in that I'll start posting in the panelists. And I believe Kathy Gordon will key those up for you.
Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure, because when you talk for a living, which I have for a lot of years, I'll look down and it'll be a lot. I'm way over time. So, and obviously excited about this too. We did come down, and I know everything's different now, and that's been difficult. We came down to the state fair. We've and it's meeting the people. I think as far as things that have kept us buoyed through this is continually talking to the people who would be potential, not just season ticket holders, but people who would just be fans. They don't have to necessarily come to games. But and then the other big question I always get from people out there, along with where is it going to be, is are you going to have a roof on the ballpark? And I will tell you that we have done intensive weather studies. I mean, everybody in the Northwest has. But we went first and looked at the Mariners. We said, okay, how often do you use the roof? And since Safeco was Safeco, now it's T-Mobile Field opened, we got indications that they only closed the roof about 11% of the time since the ballpark opened. We went back then and looked, okay, Portland Beavers, AAA team. How many times were they rained out? And so anyway, long story short, Portland has the 6th least rainfall of any major league city during the season, which is kind of ironic and kind of surprising to some, especially around the country. So we still continue to say, and we have done lots of different studies on these roof options, and we've met with lots of different engineering firms on how we could do this. I don't know that we necessarily have to, but I do think we do deal with April and we do deal with October. So those are the months where it starts to transition. And when you head into the baseball postseason, a great game last night, by the way, you can't have a Dodger fan must be, I guess. But you can't have games 1 and 2 of a playoff series rained out. So our plan is still to continue to push with the roof solution. And there is remarkable, the technology out there now, since we have seen the last roofed ballpark, and Populous, our architects out of Kansas City, they just built their building in Arlington. It's pretty amazing what you can do. The other direction that a lot of ballparks are headed now, and you can see this on our website, if you look at some of the renderings, you'll get an idea of where we're headed. It just depends on the site, because they're very site-specific designs for a ballpark. But the days of the 50, 60, 70,000 seat multiplex ballparks and stadiums are over. And so a lot of this new, even Tampa has talked about this, and Tampa's in the World Series, and they have the smallest ballpark in Major League Baseball. And the new Target Field that opened in Minneapolis is not a large ballpark. That's why we continue to say 30 to 35,000 maybe is what we're thinking. And by doing that, I think with something in sports called dynamic pricing that we dealt with the Blazers a little bit, you want the ballpark full. and you look at a model like Fenway and you love the tight kind of ballparks that are intimate. So we've continued to say that would work best, we think, but a roof over a ballpark that size is still expensive. But you'll see on the website, some of the renderings we put out there are ballparks in that range, 30 to 35,000, which could flex maybe to 38 for a all-star game or a weekend series with the Yankees. And, or, you know, I always say that, and then I kind of get chills thinking about us having a summer evening watching a game between a Oregon team, Portland / whatever region you want to say, and a Yankees Red Sox. But it still feels so real to us and still feels like it's going to happen. And we are continuing to push and loving hearing from people on, and that was the other thing. When you put renderings of a ballpark and they leaked out initially from somebody, believe it or not, this is the truth, downtown where our architect is. So we would have meetings with investors or would-be investors or officials, and you know, the architecture firm, they would hang renderings of the ballpark around the office. Well, you're downtown Portland, so there are other buildings. Somebody with a zoom lens took some photos and they leaked out because there was such a hunger for what's this thing going to look like. So some of those initial renderings went out that way. Those were early renderings. We've probably had 200 different renderings. But then we get questions once they leak out. It's, I don't like this. Put this here. What is that? I don't like, that's ugly. But we do like that, and we certainly encourage and have encouraged everybody's input in terms of what the ballpark will look like. And then you get to the other one that everybody wants to weigh in on, and that's a name. What would be the name of a team? And you know, we used to have in our retail store in downtown Portland had a box that had put your nickname in there, the nickname you would like. Man, there's a lot of funny ones, some inappropriate ones to be sure, and then some that we went, wow, we didn't think about that one. So we're still kind of going through that and kind of have not decided yet on that, but it depends too if it's relocation or if it's expansion. So all those things have a role in where we'll end up, both in the final look of whatever the stadium design is, ballpark design. I shouldn't say stadium, our architects always say ballpark. Our ballpark designs, and then what a nickname would be for the team or will be for the team. Tom, are you and Kathy ready for some questions? I know we're getting close.
We are ready. We are ready. All right,
Okay.
Here's the first one. Is the Portland Diamond Project exploring any type of public buy-in participation opportunities, such as the Green Bay Packers were able to implement? It would be fun and interesting to become a very small part owner.
You know, we got asked that early on. We were sitting one time talking to, I think we were talking to, and I hate the term, but whale investors. And somebody mentioned that the public type buy-in. And I know every time, the other question that probably will come from public money, tax money, bond money. But this is more about ownership. So we have talked about that. I'm not smart enough to know how that works. We have people who are smart enough. Our main attorney is in New York, who these sports attorneys are very creative and very wise on this. And I will just say it has come up. I know that's a boring answer. They'd like to hear a yes or no, but it has been discussed and will continue to be.
All right. All right. What does the Portland Diamond Project need from the private sector and from state and local government to bring MLB to Portland?
Support. I mean, continued support. We've gotten it. And with as challenging as in a political climate like we're in right now, I will say that, and that's what we were told early on, even by some elected officials at the state level, they said, your biggest challenge, you've got a political problem. And we said, okay, and kind of got prepared for that. And then as we went in and had these meetings with officials in the local government in Portland, they were great. I mean, Ted Wheeler came out many times in full support of the Portland Diamond Project, still does. And so that part it didn't seem to be in the initial stages, and I know things change, it didn't seem to be as big a challenge as we thought. Private sector wise, again, just pushing for this and continuing to support the effort in any way that you can, be that talking to local officials. But again, our ask of local politicians or elected officials isn't a money ask necessarily. It's, you know, you are going to have things like infrastructure, clearly, and that always comes up. If you're putting a ballpark where there isn't a ballpark now, and then how you design streets. There, if you move a stop sign, that's public money. So we've been open about that. But this is going to be, you know, and in baseball, there have been teams who have done this. I mean, the San Francisco Giants are one of them. Privately built a ballpark, and that has been important to us. There is Senate Bill 5, which was passed years ago, never enacted, and that's been the topic of some debate, which is called, basically the NBA did this, the NFL has done this too. It's called a jock tax. So it's basically a tax on visiting players, staff, executives, that raises a bond that our predecessors who started the effort, and they were going after the Expos years ago, they left some great things behind, along with some great advice. One of them was the Senate Bill 5 that has never been enacted, and could be scaled now because it was so long ago. But that's something that would not affect taxpayers, you know, of our state and of our area. It's something, again, that has been successful in the NBA and how it's been operated. So I know that was not necessarily your question, and I went long on that answer, but that's one that we have talked a lot about.
Thanks. What is the general public's current feeling about bringing MLB to Portland?
We continue to get great support. We don't have very many people. I think the negative we get is more skepticism. It's more like, we've seen this before. We've seen people try this before. You know, it's never going to work in Portland. That's the seems to be the negative part. I don't know that I've run into somebody, well, there's fringe people, but somebody who's just said, I flat don't want this. I'm anti-baseball. I'm anti-development. I don't want to have any fun. So we haven't had we haven't had much of that. There's a few people around, but no, it's been fantastic. I think what you battle, or what we tend to battle in that vein, is more of skepticism.
Right. Okay, we would appreciate your take on keeping the ballpark in Portland, given the recent riots, or possibly considering a suburban location.
Yes, on both. We have continued to. I'm not going to, at this point, come out. I know that nationally, the unrest and some of the protests and some of the damage and everything has gotten out and gotten talked about, and we've answered some questions about that. Has it affected us in what we think of doing that right now? You know, I can't say that it has to this point, but we've always, since the beginning, talked about having an option in the urban core and having an option outside, and that's still the same. And there's positives and negatives to both. So we continue to still have those discussions, but other than answering a lot of questions about it, certainly from people outside the area. I mean, I've talked to coaches, college coaches in the region, who've said it's affecting recruiting, which surprised me. And people from outside the area, you know, we got phone calls, and we're in Wilsonville. Are you guys safe? Yeah, we're safe. I mean, so you've had to kind of beat that back a little bit, but in terms of where the ballpark is located, the suburban versus urban we've always tried to keep a balance there, and we have options on both.
All right. And one last question. How does the restructuring of minor league baseball affect fan support, MLB's desire to move forward in Portland? Will this delay anything you're working on?
No, and that's a good question, though. And I know it has, it's been nervous time for some Northwest League teams, and it's not clear, you know, what's going to happen in the future with minor league baseball. We have great connectivity. And we've been at some Volcanoes games. As I mentioned, we have great connectivity to those at the Hops and M's. So we want to continue to see that. We want to continue to see minor league baseball thrive, especially in our area. And it doesn't, like, you know, the popularity of like the Hillsborough Hops, and they have great fan support. They haven't looked at this as that we're competitors, or, oh my gosh, you know, it's either or. It's not. I think it's an area that can provide both short season A or long season A, which it could be, and Major League Baseball. So we just think they can coexist, and that's what we've gotten. But yeah, the whole change in the minor league system that they have announced is interesting, and troubling, I know, to many.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thanks, Mike. We really appreciate your sharing with us all of what it takes. My gosh, it's a lot of ins and questions and so many things you have to deal with. But to you and the entire Portland Diamond Project, your insightful look at what it takes, the effort it takes to bring Major League Baseball to Oregon. We know you have a ton of work ahead, and the Salem community is here to support you. We will be a fan base for sure when you bring baseball here in the near future.
Well, for sure. And as I mentioned, as kind of the major representative from the Valley who's on this project, I always talk about that. And I played baseball at West Albany High and played at Lynn Benton for a short time, went to Oregon State with designs on playing, never did. I know the support down there. I know the community. I know a lot of the people on this call. So I appreciate that. And it's going to take, not to be cliche, it's going to take a village. So it's going to take everybody, and Salem and the Valley and all the surrounding areas. This is not going to be just a Portland team. This is a regional team. And I push that all the time. I mean, everybody else does too. They agree with it, but I tend to remind them of that because I have so many friends down in that area, and I know the support is so healthy.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate having you here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, Tom, could you cue up Jordan? I think Jordan has one more comment that he'd like to share with the group today.
Actually, Jordan is opted to, he's going to send it to me via email, and we'll feature that to our membership. So thank you for being willing to look at that, Kathy, but we're actually going to turn it over to you to finish out strong.
All right. Well, I just want to thank TJ. Huge support that we have from Huggins Insurance, along with Bliss Sequoia. All of your employees, they're so active in our community. You really do make Salem special, and especially you, TJ, serving as a member of the chamber board and for being our president for the last couple of years. Just thank you so much. And for the rest of the group, I'd like to also bring to your attention our next forum series is going to feature a really fun, inspirational panel of Salem's next generation of leadership. So interesting that we had so many young leaders that we received the Spirit of Salem Award today. But next month, we'll have the forum hosted by local workforce engagement specialist Jacob Espinoza. So that's Monday, November 16th from 11:45 to 1. We ask that each of you identify 2 of your young professionals within your organization that would join you to watch the Zoom monthly forum. And the featured panelists that we're going to have for this, these are aspiring business professionals, includes Conrad Venti from Venti's Cafe in Basil Ford, Kimmy Neal from Built Vibrant, Mike White, Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, Amar Sadhu, Sadhu Group, Lillian Kay, HomeSmart Realty Group, and Wally Ibarra from Wally Ibarra Consulting. This is the can't miss program. We expect to see you all there, along with your two professionals. And I'd like to give a shout out, especially to our ambassadors, the concierge service that they roll out at each one of our chamber events. We look forward to seeing your smiling faces again, but we know you're out there every time there's a new chamber member, you're out there welcoming them to Salem and into the chamber. And a special thank you again to our heroes who were such efforts in the Santiam Canyon fire. Oh my gosh, your relief efforts, all of the efforts that you put in. We sincerely thank you. Each of you epitomizes selfless giving and activation in a time of community crisis. We can't thank you enough. You are so deserving. And on your calendar for tomorrow, Chamber Businesswomen, virtually Zoom meeting at noon. We have Willamette University Professor of Economics, Yang Liang. She will present a nonpartisan discussion about the November ballot measures and how they will impact businesses in Oregon. So please go to your calendar feature on the salemchamber.org website, and you could register for this event. If you happen to know a Salem area business that would benefit from connections with the Salem Chamber, please keep in mind Zachary Salicki, one of our staff, and you can reach him at zachary@salemchamber.org, and he'll bring the fine things that we do with the Salem Chamber right there to their doorstep. So please keep in mind to put Zachary, to keep Zachary in your mind. And then lastly, don't forget, November 3rd is election day. Please, please submit your ballots early. Make sure they get there in time. Exercise your right to vote. Have a tremendous week. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.